You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome to My Dog Digs Dirt. I'm your host, Lauren Collier, and I am so delighted to share today's guest with you. I'm sure you've probably heard about therapy dogs and even cats, right? Well, have you ever heard about miniature therapy horses? Well, not only are they adorable, but they're also helping thousands of adults and children every year in hospitals, hospice programs, schools, and even in libraries. Stay put. When My Dog Digs Dirt returns, you will meet the education director of Gentle Carousel Miniature Therapy Horses, an all-volunteer nonprofit charity helping save lives. We'll be right back.
It's hard to find time for your furry family member. That's where Camp Bow Wow comes in. All-day play and overnight camp, daycare and boarding for dogs. Everything is included. Large play areas for fun and exercise. Spacious cabins, comfy cots, even live camper cams to watch from a computer or smartphone. Camp Bow Wow offers the best care and is the place to go where a dog can be a dog. For locations and more information, visit campbowwow.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
We are back, and you are listening to My Dog Digs Dirt, and I'm so excited to introduce you to Debbie Garcia-Bengochea, who is the education director of Gentle Carousel Miniature Therapy Horses. Welcome, Debbie.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so delighted to have you because I have to admit, when I first heard about miniature horses as therapy animals, and I have done a couple of stories on them, I'm always just so, it brings the biggest smile to my face. And I think that maybe that's part of the charm of them. When you walk into a facility, I bet you just are overwhelmed with the smiles.
Well, I think our best part is when we're in a children's hospital and the elevator doors open and little horses come out. That's my favorite.
It's so cute, but it's like not only are they adorable, but who would have thought that they would work as therapy animals? How did you get started, and how does this work?
Well, it's been almost 20 years.
Wow.
That the Gentle Carousel Miniature Therapy Horses has been working inside children's hospitals, hospice programs with families who've experienced natural disasters. But we actually started really working years ago with children, at-risk children, and children who were abused, and really the idea of that they were therapy programs where people could go to horses, but we really focused on children who might never be able to even touch a horse and to be able to take horses to people.
Because you go out to facilities, and that's amazing too. Let's talk about how the horses are trained, first of all. Is that hard to do, have a horse trained to come into a facility?
Well, it's a rare horse that really is both safe and happy doing the work that they do, and we need to have both those things in a horse that we're working with. They go through about a 2-year basic training program, and they have an in-hospital training program where they work with occupational, physical, and speech therapists at a rehab hospital. So the foals, the young horses, go with their moms from the time they're very young. And so they get used to all the hospital smells and sounds and helicopters landing and all the things that can happen in a hospital setting to get them ready to travel to children's and veterans hospitals across the country. So they actually are teamed with patients who are also learning how to go up and down steps again, who are learning how to walk on different surfaces. So they really partner with patients that help them learn what they need to learn to be able to, be safe and happy working.
So I assume, much like therapy animals, I'm saying a dog or a cat, not all of them have the drive or can make it. Are there ones that just excel at this and you can tell when they're young? Is that how it works?
It really is. We're now on multiple generations of therapy horses, and you can really see, even with the young foals being fearless and happy to be around people, and we really want to make it an enjoyable experience for them. And even though they're working indoors, and we always hear people say, oh, can they live indoors?
Right.
They actually live very, very natural lives. They have their own little herds. They run over, many, many acres. So they probably live a more natural, like wild horse model life than a lot of horses do, even though they're doing really amazing indoor things. We feel like they need to have both.
Right, so they have the best of both worlds, really. When we're talking about miniature horses, how big are they really? Because I have a gigantic, well, she's not gigantic, but she's a pretty big dog, a Bouvier de Flandre, and she's considered big, but I imagine the horse would be a little bit bigger. So how high do they stand?
No, actually smaller.
Yeah? Oh, okay.
They have smaller. Well, we have therapy horses from 22 inches up to about 27 inches. So weighing under 100 pounds, and I'm imagining your dog weighs over 100 pounds.
Yeah, she does. Don't tell her, though. She's not
so really much smaller, and, there's a wide range of sizes in miniature horses, and they can go up to quite large. But to be able to really move around hospital beds, work in elevators, work in the very tight settings that the horses need to work. And I think because they also do home hospice visits, they need to be able to walk up and down stairs, fit in bedrooms where there might be a child there. So they really do need to be on the small side of miniature horses. And, and because they travel and the horses are called in, to different places where things have happened, like, they were asked to come to Sandy Hook in Newtown. Or Charleston after the church tragedy. And often there are just really small places where they can meet with people. Right. So again, size becomes very important with those kind of situations.
And how does it work? You said in a facility they're teamed up, maybe with a physical therapist, an occupational therapist. When you go to these situations, would you go with them, Debbie, as well? Do they have a certain handler that they're very comfortable with?
Yes. I mean, they work with occupational and physical therapists when they're being trained, but they are always with handlers that they know, that they trust, that they can count on, because you really never know, what's going to happen. They've flown in airplanes, their alarms can go off, and they really have to have that complete trust. And when they go into a hospital, and they work in all kinds of different hospitals, they don't get a trial run to go in. Right. The doors open, and they have to be totally at ease. And because horses are flight animals and they're herd animals, it's very different than bringing a dog inside a hospital setting. They really do have to trust the handlers that are with them and working with them. And we really want to make sure too that even though, they're trained, and we do believe that therapy animals are born and not made, but they really do need that kind of training. We also want them to feel free enough to reach out to people, to interact with people, and not feel so controlled that they're not moving over and laying their heads on hospital beds.
Some of those pictures, and we must encourage listeners, to log on.
Well, and we want them to be able to pick who they want to visit to. When they walk into a situation, we will find that certain horses are really drawn to certain people. And we often find out later, what's going on. Like we were at a program for children. It was a camp for children with cancer, and our horse Magic went immediately over to this little boy who was sitting by himself. And even though the other horses were visiting with other children, she was very attracted to him and just put her forehead on his forehead. And they were just sat together there, and that's very unusual behavior for a horse and a little boy. We found out that he had just found out his cancer had come back, and so horses. Some horses can be very intuitive with people, and Magic always seems to find the person in the room, that needs her the most. So we want them to have that flexibility to be able to go to people that they really are really drawn to.
It's amazing. It's just like you said. They're born, even though, of course, they get training. They don't just walk in, but it's an instinct almost that these animals have. It's amazing. Do they go in teams? Like, does more than one have to go at a time, or can just one go?
It really depends on the situation. I mean, when we're traveling to other states, we always make sure that there's a group of horses because they like that companionship, somebody that they trust. But, when they're actually working, even if they go into a hospital and there's more than one, they kind of do their own thing. They find their own place, and And often if there's an individual hospice situation in someone's home with children, I don't think people always think of hospice and children together. Like, we went to a place and there was a little boy. He'd been in the hospital his whole life, and he had never been into a park. He'd never been home for the holidays, and they really requested a visit, and it was obvious that he was, it was a very challenging situation at that point. And, the horse went over to him, and he started laughing, and he was so excited, and even though he had all the tubes and all the everything, and sometimes, you can't fix things.
Right.
But you can give someone that moment. And when we were getting ready to leave, his mother said, we've never had a happy day, and now we'll always have a happy day. Sometimes it's the little miracles. We were at a hospital the other day, and a child reached out his arm for the first time because he wanted to touch a horse, and it's a little thing. But to a family and to the people involved with that child, it's a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, and for children, we were with a little girl who'd had a heart transplant and then got leukemia. And she would tell the doctors, I only get out of bed for magic. That was to have children feel like they have a special friend who is there for them, who loves them, who comes back and visits them. Every little girl wants a pony. It doesn't matter if you're, if you're healthy or if you have challenges, you still want to have that feeling. And when a horse walks into a hospital room, it's just amazing every time. And sometimes people look at the children, but we always look at the parents to have that moment where they see their children happy and they're not thinking about treatment or anything else. They're just thinking, there's a horse in my room.
Absolutely. I just love it. I just love what you do. Let me ask you, when you first started, Debbie, was it a challenge to have a horse come into a facility? Did people say, what are you, crazy? You know what I mean?
No. 20 years ago, no one was doing it with horses. It was, it really is something that we've kind of broken different barriers, and we still are. There are still places that, the horses are, the gentle carousel horses are the very first horses who've ever been into that particular hospital or ever allowed into a room. We were, a few months ago, we were in New York City, and we were contacted by a doctor. There was a woman who had been a lifelong equestrian, and she was in intensive care at Mount Sinai Hospital right in downtown, Manhattan.
Right.
And they had asked her, she had no family, what her last request was, what she wanted. And she said, I want to lie in a pasture surrounded by horses. Of course, she's in the middle of the city, and they contacted us, and we happened to be up there doing a program anyway. And, it took a lot of jumping through hoops and administrators for them to say, okay, we're going to allow a horse into intensive care to visit her and surprise her. So, all of the volunteers had to have the gowns and the gloves and everything on, but we were able to bring a horse in and surprise her. And she passed away soon after, but she had her wish granted. So we're still breaking barriers all the time of what horses are capable of doing.
Right.
People always think of them as, are they house trained, which they are. They have to be to work inside hospitals, all the different kind of things. But once they see them in action,
I bet
we've won them over.
They make
then they want to know how soon can you come back.
I love this. All right, we're going to take a short break, but stay tuned. My Dog Digs Dirt will be back, and we're going to talk more about a wonderful organization called Gentle Carousel Miniature Therapy Horses. Stay tuned.
When we ran out, we stopped using it.
Why would you stop?
Why undo all the good that's been accomplished? We thought everything was fine, and that was not a good thing.
No.
He started stinking. It was awful.
Shedding comes back, loss of hair, lots of dandruff.
Scratching will return. His shedding will increase.
If I ever took Roy off of Dinovite, he would go back to his hair loss.
DINOVITE.com.
859-428-1000.
When I get down to the bottom of my box of Dinovite,
When I get to about 3/4.
Oh, no. I've got a couple more scoops.
it's time to place my order. Dinovite.com.
Each and every day she is getting that Dinovite.
The omega-3 fatty acids.
Flaxseed, zinc, alfalfa.
The digestive enzymes that are cooked out of regular dog food.
Just feed your dog right. Use Dinovite. If it's working, don't quit.
Don't do what I did and run out.
859-428-1000.
859-428-1000.
DINOVITE.com.
It's DesignerPetSweaters.com. Hand-knitted designer sweaters for your precious pup or cool cat. Beautiful couture patterns for your pets, including custom-knitted formal wear, casual wear, yachting, and even sports-themed. Many designer pet sweaters include feathered tammy hats, top hats, and a lot of sparkle. Each sweater includes leg loops, front paw sleeves, and leash opening. Visit DesignerPetSweaters.com to order your four-legged fashions today. Large or small, we fit them all. DesignerPetSweaters.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
We are back, and we are talking about Gentle Carousel miniature therapy horses. Debbie, this is just really a wonderful, wonderful organization. You're helping so many people. We're talking a bit about how the horses are trained and some of the wonderful stories and reactions you get. I guess when people see a horse, a miniature therapy horse, they sort of look like a therapy dog because they're outfitted in vests. They have certain gear that they wear as well. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct. And in fact, and sometimes people will do double takes,
yes.
Especially if you're in an elevator, that elevator etiquette where people walk in and try not to look at each other, and then they realize there's a horse with them in the elevator. So yeah, they do wear therapy vests and things like that, and it depends what they're doing. Like one of our horses is a deputy with the sheriff's department, and so has a special uniform that she wears when she's working with the sheriff's department. So it really depends what they're doing.
Right.
And sometimes they have, like we had a little girl, and her last request was she wanted a tea party with the horses.
Oh.
And so the horses all came in tuxedos, and her little cousin came in princess dresses, and that's kind of sometimes just making a memory is, what
Makes
you can
such a
do too,
difference.
something really special. So they wear different things at different times.
Okay, and your horses and you have been highly recognized. You mentioned Magic before, and he has had some wonderful honors, a Time Magazine top 10 most heroic animals. That's amazing.
The only living animal of the list that they made, and nobody's old enough, but it's AARP. She's AARP's most heroic pet in America, and she was actually the only miniature horse inducted into the United States Equestrian Federation Equus Foundation Horse Stars Hall of Fame as a humanitarian, and she was actually just received for Florida, which is where she's located, the 2016 Pet Hero of the Year for the American Veterinary Medical Association.
That is so wonderful. Congratulations.
And it's nice because most of what the horses do are unseen, unless you have a sick child or you're in a veterans hospital. And now they're doing more work with military families.
That's wonderful.
And families who've lost family members in the line of duty. So, usually it's private things that the horses are.
But what's lovely is really it's just limitless. Talk about some of the places you will go. Our listeners might want you to come. And, are there any restrictions? Are you open-minded? You talked about hospitals, of course, about hospice, about some situations, that happen like the Sandy Hook, like the tornadoes. Does it really run the gamut? And how can one of our listeners find you?
Well, they can reach us on our website. It's horse-therapy.org. If they want to, try to reach us, there's a contact place there. And really, it is unlimited. It's as much as we can afford to do. We're an all-volunteer charity, so no one gets paid except in smiles. And we try to get out and be at as many places as possible, as many hospitals as possible that we can do. And we're getting ready to start our summer travel program where the horses will be working in hospitals. They also do reading programs in
Yes,
libraries.
I wanted to mention that. That's fantastic.
With at-risk readers and young readers. So, we have horses that look like a lot of the classic children's books. So children finish reading and the actual character.
And they really help the children learn how to read.
Absolutely.
Or adults even, right.
Yeah, and they work in, in high crime neighborhoods. They work in places where, children may not ever see a horse in person. Yeah. And, we feel like it also teaches a lot of it's humane education. When you make friends with an animal, when you see them as a real personality, it changes how you think of things.
I love that, yes. And of course, we should mention you are also a huge pet lover because you have an 18-year-old Shetland sheepdog. Congratulations.
We do. He's laying here right now watching.
I love it. And a 4-year-old Roddy. I love Rottweilers. Excalibur. So you, as well as
Excalibur.
The horses. Yeah. And you consider, of course, your therapy horses family as well. Let me ask you, I know because it's all volunteer, Debbie, how can our listeners help you? I know that some will want you to come to their facility, but also for those who might be able to help you because you are nonprofit. How can we do that?
Well, a big part of it, and again, going to our website, is, looking for either individuals or corporate sponsors that will sponsor an individual horse for the year to be able to have a horse that will go out and do the work, to meet the needs of children or veterans and things like that. So sponsoring an individual horse makes a huge difference. Or if there's a particular program or hospital that someone wants to support, that would also be great. We're watching the gas prices again right now going, please don't go up. Because that's a big part of it is just the transportation and getting the horses where we need them to go, taking care of them and also the travel.
Now, you're looking for a van as well? That would be something that you'd need. I know that was mentioned. Maybe someone can,
Yeah.
Donate something.
Well, we have a horse trailer. Parking is such a huge problem, especially if you're in cities and things, and it would certainly help with gas, but we are trying to get a minivan for our minis so that they can, get out and get around and go places in a much easier and less expensive way. So that would also be a huge help.
That would be a great. Also, smaller things, I know if you would purchase them through Amazon, they would donate a portion to you. But little things like maybe people can help with clippers, brushes, feed, things that you might not think of. You can look on the website if you need to make a smaller donation. That's a way that you can do it. Is that right, Debbie?
A huge help. Yeah. We always say we go through more shampoo than anyone we know. Keeping everybody, when they go into a hospital, they're clipped and groomed and their feet are polished, and we even put sparkles in their hair and tell the children it's fairy dust. So everybody wants to get fairy dust on their hands so they will have a good day at the hospital. So all those things make a huge difference.
Well, you are making a huge difference, Debbie. I thank you so much for being here. I want to remind our listeners it's Gentle Carousel Miniature Therapy Horses. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on the web. Debbie, thank you so much.
Oh, we really appreciate it. And we do post every day on Facebook so people can follow along with their adventures.
I encourage each and every one of you to log on and take a look and to extend yourself. This is such a wonderful organization making such a difference. Thank you so much, Debbie, and I thank you everyone out there for listening. This has been My Dog Digs Dirt.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.